Hi everyone, and welcome to this update video for the November 2025 Quality of Life update and the release of the first ever standalone cosmetics pack called Neutronium. Now, the amount of small changes and fixes in this update is really quite a lot, so if you want to read everything, then I've linked the notes in the description. In this video, I'm going to focus on the bigger changes that are included. Starting off then is a new story trait, the Printerceptor. This brings the total number of story traits available to 6, but Clay have, for now at least, recommended that only up to 5 are used in the world generation, or the chances of failing to generate will be higher. And as usual, you can choose these in the Story Traits tab before starting a new world. So what does the Printerceptor actually do? I'm only going to briefly cover it here and explain it fully in its own tutorial bite, but basically it consumes databanks and printing pod charges when a new print is ready to let you choose a blueprint. You'll need 50 databanks to get started, of which 25 are consumed for the first print, and 3 printing pod charges over 9 cycles to give you 1 print. And there's a large range of most critter eggs and plant seeds, so overall this building is quite a powerful new addition and lets you more quickly get a critter or plant that you need but don't have. Next up then are some changes around the rooms and their requirements. The biggest change here is the addition of a new type of room called a Banquet Hall. This takes on the +6 morale boost that the Great Hall used to have, and the Great Hall now only gives +4, so you'll want to upgrade to Banquet Halls when you can. In reality, this isn't a big change, and to be counted as a Banquet Hall and not a Great Hall, we just need to make a few changes. Firstly, we can only have communal tables and not mess tables. These are made from wood or a new material plywood, and are 5 tiles wide and sit 3 dupes, so do take up more space, but are otherwise just tables. Secondly, there's an added requirement to have a displayed ornament, either on a pedestal or on the new display shelf, but the ornament doesn't have to be cleaned with the artifact analysis station. The display shelf is also made of wood or plywood, and must be placed onto a background building like drywall, but otherwise this then acts exactly the same as a pedestal. Another new building, and in my opinion one of the most important in this large update, the Insulated Door. This does exactly what the name suggests, and works like insulated tiles, but only when closed. And because temperature management is really the biggest mid and late game challenge in the game, this building is a game changer. Now vacuum liquid locks can be replaced in most situations, but a liquid lock may still be useful because gases can pass through when they are open. But all around this is a very powerful building, and I expect it to be useful in all bases. Plus, sticking to the door subject, we now have a new addition of door permissions for standard dupes, bionic dupes and robots. So Flydo, rovers and biobots. This is definitely a useful addition, giving more control over who can go in different areas to hopefully keep them safer. Moving on, gas grass has had a nice rework. Of course, up till now, gas grass plants produce the gas grass item when harvested, but this had literally no uses at all. So instead they've been changed to now drop plant husk when harvested, at a rate of 100 kilos per cycle. And plant husk can also be gotten when a number of other plants are harvested, by a dupe with the improved farming 2 skill at the end of that skill tree. So what do we do with plant husk? Well, the first use is in feeding gassy moos, and they eat this at the same rate as the plant growth, so there's no difference in the numbers. But it will make a difference now to the moos, as this update also includes a new morph, the Husky Moo. These have an increased chance to get cooled down when moos are fed plant husk, versus the plant growth that gives more normal moos. Rather unhelpfully, Husky Moos excrete carbon dioxide instead of natural gas, which is really just worse. But they can be milked for biodiesel instead of brackine, which is arguably more useful more often. If fully happy, a Husky Moo will make 200 kilos per cycle of biodiesel. Comparing this to the natural gas from the gassy moos, this biodiesel will make 2¼ times as much power, which is quite a lot more. In fact, a single Husky Moo can make a constant average of 333 watts of power when burning the biodiesel in the petroleum generator. And plant husk has a second use in another new building, the Plywood press. This combines 90 kilograms of plant husk and 10 kilograms of resin to make plywood, a new wood substitute that I mentioned earlier. Quickly on the topic of resin, this is made in the plant pulverizer from amber produced by lure plants. But you also now get 5 kilograms from each shinebug egg that is cracked in the egg cracker, and the stable limit for shinebugs has now doubled from 8 to 16. Plywood though is just an alternative material to be used in buildings that previously needed wood. This includes buildings like ladders, cots, drywall and outhouses, which can be made of wood or other materials, or buildings that specifically only use wood, like wood tiles, hot tubs and saunas. Do note though that plywood has a lower decor value than normal wood. Of course this plywood can also be used in an ethanol distiller to make ethanol, or burnt in a wood burner to make power, but given the resin requirement, this is more easily done with normal wood. As we now have new Husky Moos that make biodiesel, there is now another new rocket engine, the Biodiesel Engine, in both the base game and Spaced Out. This works like the petroleum engine and needs liquid biodiesel and oxidizer to work. But it has a 13 tile range instead of 10 for each liquid fuel tank. So for 2 liquid fuel tanks and 1 large oxidizer tank, or 2 small ones which gives the same range for 1 less height, this rocket can now go 26 tiles in total. That's very useful and is the middle distance between the 20 of the petroleum engine and the 32 of the hydrogen engine, making this a very useful mid and late game rocket. Plus, the star map in the Spaced Out DLC has received some changes. Space points of interest now give 50 data banks when first collected, and resource harvesting has changed. Now, instead of mining the materials directly into a cargo bay, the resources are instead released floating in the star map and can then be collected, meaning drilling and collecting can be done with different rockets. And to collect data banks, you'll need a new module, the research module. And there's been a visual rework to the background of rocket interiors, which now look more spacey and show moving streaks when the rocket is in flight. And dupes will get a thrilling flight buff when moving, which gives +2 morale but +10% stress. In the rocket platform, the UI has also slightly changed to give more control over flight plans for landing platforms. And there's another UI change to storage containers and fridges, which now group their contents and show them more clearly. Then in the research tree, there's one new research stage, as meteor blasters and the blast shot maker now have their own research called missiles to be completed. Back onto the planetoids, and the next small change is for Radbolt generators. These now consume power proportional to the radiation level up to 1000 rads or 100 radbolts per cycle. So if you only have 500 rads for example, then the generator will only consume 240 watts of power. So this is potentially useful for low radiation areas, but the power is still capped at 480 watts above this level. And 1000 rads is quite easy to achieve with only a few Wiz warts or radiation lamps, so I don't think this will make a practical impact on most players. Next up is the second new critter morph in this update, the Shatter Flox. This cool looking purple flox eats abyssalite, as well as the normal flox plant growth, and still excretes dirt, but at double the rate. But their antlers are not sheared for wood, but instead glass. Just beware that these only grow if actively fed abyssalite, and to breed them you need to raise floxes in a high decor environment. So while they are very cool looking, I don't think that they're super useful since glass is easily made in the glass forge anyway, and abyssalite is hard to get renewably, although this update has added it as a space mineable material to the star map, so it is now technically renewable, at least. The Frosty Planet Pack also now includes a new Wicker door. This is basically the same as a pneumatic door, and lets liquids and gas flow through, but does look cool and fits the wood theme. In the Bionic Booster Pack, Bionic dupes have gotten a nice upgrade to their skill tree. They now have another 2 skills in a new branch. These are improved hardware, which gives immunity to pop eardrums and eye irritations, so you can now send your Bionic dupes into bad gases without any issues, and climate control gives immunity to toasty and chilly surroundings. That doesn't mean that they can't burn or freeze, but are happier with a much wider temperature range. So combining these two means you don't really have to control your base area very carefully at all. Just watch out for liquids, which still cause issues without Atmo suits anyway. And for the newest DLC, the Prehistoric Planet Pack, there is yet another new critter morph. Here we've got the Blumb, which has the same diet as the normal Lumb, but excretes algae instead of peat. This is actually quite useful, since algae was very difficult to make renewably before, and of course algae is an easy way to make oxygen in the oxygen diffuser or to feed Pacu. And the numbers here are quite powerful, as a single Blumb being fed overgrow figs or bristleberry makes enough algae to make oxygen for 2 tubes, or when fed bog jelly can support 3. Also on the topic of critters, there has been a change to scale growth for crowded critters, so this mostly affects overflow shearing ranches for Drecos. Now when crowded, critters get a scale growth penalty which seems equal to the growth rate, meaning overflow shearing seems to have been effectively removed from the game as we knew it. By splitting the overflow into enough space for the critters, this should still be possible, but obviously this will take up much more space than before. Getting towards the end of the quite big number of changes now, and we now have the option to Control F to find buildings, and this hotkey takes you straight to the building search window. Plus, jet suits have been given a buff, with their movement speed increased and carbon dioxide output and temperature reduced, but fuel consumption increased. They also now need reed fibre or feather fibre to make, and not petroleum, but do still need petroleum or ethanol or biodiesel to work. And the last small change is that the laboratory room no longer has a light requirement, making these even easier to build in space biomes. So that's it for the updates I wanted to cover, although there are many more small ones I haven't mentioned. So now let's quickly look at the Nuetronium's cosmetics pack. This is actually the first dedicated paid cosmetic only pack and is relatively cheap. It includes one outfit and a cool Atmos suit and jet suit costume and one matching wallpaper. And also one new duplicant, Senna. Most of the content though is in the buildings, with new designs for corner and ceiling trims, pedestals, the printing pod, storage bins and fridges, as well as a lot of other machines. These are a new grooming station, manual generator, coal generator and steam turbine, as well as an oxygen diffuser, pitcher pump, carbon skimmer, electrolyzer, skill scrubber, water sieve, metal refinery, liquid tepodizer and thermo aquatuner. And because these are quite commonly built in bases, you can definitely make existing setups look cool. As it's a cosmetics pack, there's nothing here that's necessary, so whether it's worth it is entirely up to you, but the pack in general is quite small. And that's everything I wanted to cover for this quite large update to Oxygen Not Included. I hope you enjoy all these new changes, and thanks for watching.